Welcome everybody to this week 2 match between myself and Dylan Magika. I recorded this so you'll see my hand and his is at obviously he's at the top of the screen. Um, this week I'm trying out a janky brew that I just came up with. I didn't entirely come up with it. I saw this Scred Dragons build from uh, in Modern and SCG Philadelphia, so I thought I'll give Grixis Dragons a try in Standard. So basically, all my deck does is try and jam massive dragons and swing, and that's in the Grixis colors. So I think the Sarkhan is really awesome. It has the filter, and also it allows you on turn 4. It allows you to play a 6 mana dragon. You can. It's pretty obvious still in here. Haze Pollen. He's on that Nexus fairy deck. This deck is damn annoying. It's kind of straightforward. It's Teferi with the win con, so if you can stop Teferi, you can go a long way to winning, but also got to stop the extra turn as well. So you can see here Victus. This guy, whenever he attacks, you exile target permanent from both sides, and both players reveal the top card of their library and play that card. See, I'm surely not giving him the extra turn card there, so he just gets to land. This Vivictus is really good against this deck because even if he fogs, I still get the trigger. The thing I'm thinking of right now is he does it. Is turn 5 he plays Teferi, so that's where things get bad. So at this stage, you can see my hand there. Sweltering Suns is really bad in this matchup. Dragon's Horde is good to have at the start, but it's a bit slow now. I'm kind of thinking my thought process at this stage is that he's got a Teferi out, so I'm probably not going to get another turn. You can see I'm tapped out here. I can't do anything if he's got a Nexus of Fate. I just have to sit back and hope that he doesn't get the combo going. But he's going to get a number of ways to draw it. You can see he uses Khan to find it. Also, because I'm currently overseas, this series of games, probably for the next month or so, I just net deck stuff, but I forgot to bring my thumb drive that has all my actual decks on it, and I can't really be bothered manually making them again. So you can see he's got 2, 3, 4, 5 access to the mana, but he can just float that mana and then untap it with the Teferi trigger, play Nexus of Fate. He does this over and over again, so I think at this stage, I'm like, yeah, I'll let him do it a couple of times. If he can do it 3 or 4 times, then I'm probably going to quit out of boredom. He's got so many different ways. With 4 copies of Nexus of Fate in his deck, he's got so many different ways to find the card. Plussing Khan, then getting another turn and getting a silver counted Khan. So here's another one. You can see he's at 26 life, so it's going to take a lot to beat that as well. He's got 7 cards in hand. Teferi draws another one. He's going to play Iskanta. So once he gets another turn with Iskanta, that's it, because he can start to looking at 4 cards deep to try and find it. There it is. I'd had enough, so I pass the turn. So, sorry, I concede. So I can bring in some cards to combat it after sideboard. But even at the stage, I'm thinking I've got until turn 5 to do something. Once he gets to turn 5, I'm kind of at the mercy of his draws. So I want to get Sarkhan out for the filtering here, so I can get rid of some of these. But you can see I don't want 2 nickel boluses. So now he's potentially got 5. So at this stage, I'm going to have to start aggressively filtering of Sarkhan. Lathless Dragon Queen is really good. Every time I play another dragon, I get a 5/5. So he's at this stage he can't go off because and playing a tap lane there was huge for me. So I'm going to play out Bolus. The reason that he couldn't go off is because he 2, 3, 4, 5. He'd tap out for Teferi and then untap with Teferi could only get him 3. So you can see I've got 15 power on the board. It's a 2-turn clock. The only downside with this deck or this play is that you cannot use Sarkhan's Plus to activate Nicol Bolas's ability to turn him into a Planeswalker. So he's past the turn of Teferi, so it's pretty obvious what's going on here. I bought in Negate. I think off memory, I played this a while back now, but I think I've got 4 Duress and 4 Negates, plus a 1 of Lost Legacy. So now I think, do I want to burn the Negate to take down Teferi, or do I just want to go at the face? I'd be expecting the Fog here for sure. You wouldn't just play Teferi and lose it. So I play out the Negate because Teferi is his win con. You can see he uses the Haze of Pollen, he passes the turn. And again, I'm at this position, I'm crossing my fingers, please don't have the combo or I'm dead. Looking back now, I probably misplayed. I should have just gone at the face and ignored Teferi. So I was absolutely amazed there that he did not have the a Nexus of Fate. So I found the Duress. So now I'm going to Duress him pre-combat to see what he's got. You can see he's got the Nexus of Fate. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He was one short of being able to play it last turn. So he's going to be able to go off next turn, but because I'm 2 points short of lethal, I have to swing. But again, I had a big misplay here because what I could have actually done is played at the Demanding Dragon, and it would have been lethal because it would have forced him to take 5 damage because he can't sacrifice a creature. So I missed a winning play there. So I know he's got the Nexus of Fate. He can take another turn, but he needs to find a Teferi to go with it. So this is not a good sign. Chart the course, get a look at 2. At this stage, I'm thinking there's 1 Teferi down and there's 3 to go. And of course he has one, but you can see he's tapped so low now he's not going to be able to play it, to play the Nexus of Fate. So he untaps. I can only assume he has another Fog. So I do not find what I want. So now I'm kind of out of options. Again, I think I missed that line with where I can get the 5. Oh no, actually I found it. Yeah, so he's got to have the. If I'd attacked and done the damage last turn, he'd be dead. He's got to have the Fog here or it's game. There's no point swinging more than 1. He's got the Fog. And so now I've got big problems because he's got I know he's got the Nexus of Fate and he's got a Teferi. And he can start doing his thing. Draws more cards with Charter Course. So he's going to take the extra turn here with Nexus of Fate, shuffle it back. He's down to 2 cards, so I've got a chance here. He finds a Search for a Skanta. I think if he had that previous turn, it would be much better because he passes the turn. So now, again, I have to aggressively dig. Sorcerer's Spyglass is a really good pickup here. I can shut off Teferi. But what I do instead is I can play the Spyglass first. I play out second Sarkhan so I can get another loot. So now I can see what's going on with the Duress. So see what he's got left, 2 cards in hand. He doesn't want to show me off memory. I think, yeah, he concedes. So we're going to game 3. So whatever he had, he probably had 1 Fog left and I could have taken that. You can see there's my 1 of Lost Legacy that's come in. So well, I'm looking here for Teferis primarily. I think I take Teferi. I leave him with a Nissa, which ended up being a bit of a nuisance in this match because Nissa did some real work for him. In hindsight, particularly because I had the other duress, I think I was at the time I was thinking I was going to keep that duress for um, declare a path, but I think having seen what Nissa can do, in hindsight next time I would certainly clear out the Nissa. But that was really frustrating at that point there. Canyon Sloth was my second black source for Lost Legacy. His shields were down as well, but it was his tapped land. So I get rid of his Glimmer of Genius to cut down his card draw. It's not a huge win there. I probably should have taken Settle the Wreckage because Nissa is scrying him to a turn. So now I'm going for Lost Legacy. I haven't seen any evidence of counter spells from him. So I decided to take Nexus of Fate because I can shut down his extra turns. All four of them are gone exiled. It was either Nexus of Fate or Teferi, but Teferi is a win condition by itself, and I've got four Vraska's Contempts, plus other ways to, like my creatures and so on, that can take down Teferi. Like my thinking at the time was Teferi Ultimate to date, he would need to have about 5 consecutive fogs on my creatures to stop Teferi doing the damage. He's got the 2 mana up, so he does have access to um, a fog at this point. So one option there was Glorybringer. I didn't play the Glorybringer because if I did play it with haste and he had the fog, it would be a waste of time. I'm just lying down on the ground. I've injured my back, so I'm trying to find a comfortable position. So here's the fog for Teferi. So he's up to 2, 3, 4, 5. I know he's not going to have any extra turns, so now right here I'm tempted to play before combat. I was tempted to play Bolus because it might draw out a spell, but I decided to take the lands instead and then play Bolus because um, the 2 dragons, basically that was a very good kind of 1-for-1, I guess you could call it, because I had 2 dragons, but it came from 1 card. I get 2 lands out of it from Settle the Wreckage. So at this stage, I'm thinking what path I want to take. I'm kind of expecting him to bounce this with Teferi, because if he doesn't, it's going to flip next turn. And also, my thinking here is that if he does bounce it with Teferi, it kind of buys me 3 more turns. And looking at my mana coupled with Sarkhan, I can actually play 2 Glorybringers in a turn if I wanted to. So this was kind of out of left field. I didn't expect this. Khan's Temporal Sundering. It's going to buy him an extra turn and bounces my bolus. So that was a pretty. At that stage, I thought, oh, don't tell me I'm going to lose after I took all of his Nexus of Fates. You can see he's down to 1 card. He takes the Cleansing Nova. I don't really care about Cleansing Nova because this deck can just produce so many dragons anyway that I can recover from a sweeper. At this stage, my main concern, I actually thought he was going to ultimate Nissa and make the 2 5/5s to take down Sarkhan, because Sarkhan was doing some decent work for me. But he didn't do that. I've got an extra bolus now, so I throw this one out there to see if there's any counter spells. There's not. And here's a kind of a test because one shitty 4/4. I see if he wants to use one of his fogs. He's only got 3 cards in hand. I go at the reason I go at the Teferi here is because he hadn't ultimated Nissa previously. I was fully expecting him to do that. So when he didn't do it, I was a bit surprised. I thought he's not going to go down that path, but he does eventually do that, and as we'll see coming up shortly. Teferi actually ultimates at 8. We had a bit of a discussion going on there because he thought he ultimated at 7. So at this stage, I'm thinking I've got one turn. If Teferi ultimates, I'm dead. But Teferi doesn't ultimate. So now I've got two lines of play here because I've got the Vraska's Contempt. I can take down a Planeswalker. I can either Planeswalker Nicol Bolas. So that I draw out the Root Snare again. Planeswalker Nicol Bolas or Vraska's Contempt, and even or I can Vraska's Contempt. So, but both lines are kind of risk. I decided to go for the Bolas because he could counter Vraska's Contempt, but I don't believe he could counter the Bolas. Now I've got 2 lines here. I can either do 10 damage to Teferi and remove him, or I can get super greedy, which is what I decided to do, and take the Duress Teferi from the first turn and put him on the battlefield and bounce his Teferi. Now, in hindsight, again, this was a bit of a misplay. I was getting greedy thinking of the card draw, but I forgot about that Ascanter he's got on there, so he's just getting Teferi straight back anyway. So he got the Teferi straight back, and you can see with Bolas at 3 and Teferi at 1, I'm particularly vulnerable here. Again, he seems to have, and he decides to bounce my uh, Bolas with Teferi, which was a bit of a surprise to me. I give him the gift of paradise because I think life totals don't really matter at this stage. This is just a control battle. One of us is going to basically get on top control-wise and then run away with it. He passes a turn, which was a super surprising for me there. So I get a card draw out of Teferi. And I quite like this. Field of Ruin thinned my deck for me a little bit. So I'm going to use the filtering from Sarkhan to get 2 Vraska's Contempt, so that this is going to be huge here. So I swing the Glorybringer looking to tap him out, so he had to use his tapped out ability there. So now I've got 2 Vraska's Contempts. I've got 2 lines of play, either take down Teferi and Nissa, or take down 1 and play Nicol Bolas. I think the safe route would be to take down the Nissa and the Teferi, but I decide just to pass the turn and see what he wants to do. Of course, he's found a Teferi anyway, and he bounces my Teferi, so his goes back. So I now know that he has 1 gone from when I Vraska's Contempted it. He's got 1 in play, and he's going to get 1 back with the Escanta, so he's in a pretty good position. I was really surprised here. He finally ultimated Nissa, but he swung it in my face instead. I use this to take down the Teferi again. That really surprised me. I thought he would have taken down Sarkhan. Now I can do some serious damage. I'm going to just filter first. No, actually, I'm not. I'm going to go for the double play. Luckless Dragon Queen. And then follow this up with Bolas. So Bolas will get the necklace trigger. So I'm pretty much safe now from the Nissa ultimate. so Sarkhan will survive. He's only got one card in hand, so I'm thinking I'm going to go after Khan now. Finds is another Teferi. So this is the third Teferi coming up. I've beaten two already. Plays out his Teferi. At this stage, I'm thinking I've got this match won. I don't think, without his Nexus of Fate, I don't think he's got enough firepower in his deck to beat all the dragons I'm going to have. I do know about the Cleansing Nova in his hand. And it's a bit odd that he didn't play it out there. So I'm going to get basically a look at two cards here. Get rid of Ether Hub. Well, actually, no, that's right. I ultimated Sarkhan, so I've got lethal on board. There's a negate. So my negate now, he's got one card left in hand. I actually can force lethal next turn. So I'm happy to just take the. I'm going to get rid of the construct because I don't need the Glorybringer next turn. So his last card in hand is the Haze of Pollen. So I just let that resolve because I've got lethal on board next turn. Lyra Dawnbringer is a pretty good draw for him, but I don't think it's enough. I'm trying to do the math. It sort of negates what two of the 5/5s, but I've still got 25 damage, which is 4 short. But Bolus here is going to be huge. I cycle, just looking for something else. Sorcerer's Spyglass is a winner here. Bolus is going to give me another dragon from Lathless. And I think, yeah, he'd seen enough, so I take down standard 2-1. On to Modern now, where I didn't have a clue what he was on. He played Snow-Covered Mountain. I thought, what the hell is this? I don't know. I'm kind of thinking Blue Moon. I don't know why I thought that. But I'm playing the Todd Stevens Bant midrange that he played on the weekend, or previous weekend. I kind of made a last-minute decision. Like normally I was going to play green-white, but I couldn't find a DCK to download fast enough, so I'd seen this deck previously and thought I want to give it a try. And straight, okay, now I know what's up. He's on Storm. So I just stop him there because my deck is quite weak. And to be on game one against Storm, from what I saw, and to be honest, I didn't even look at the sideboard. I'm a bit disappointed with the sideboard. I would have changed a few things around. It's quite poor for battling Storm. Bit of a misplay here. I think I would have put the counter on Spell Queller and then fought with the Voice of Resurgence. But I do it, put the counter there. So he's going to be able to draw back the Goblin Electromancer here. So Grape Shot's going to do a fair bit of work. Yeah, I was expecting Damping Spheres in the sideboard, but this deck doesn't have any. I'd probably bring those in if I was to modify. I like to, because this deck does have a pretty decent clock for mid-range deck. So at this stage, my deck's out of gas, but Pilo's Tracker was timely, but put him to 7. I can actually get lethal next turn if I have a land. He just passes, which I do. Actually, one short of lethal. But actually, the Noble Hierarch gave me lethal because it made the token a bit bigger. So I didn't have a lot to bring in. You can see my worship there. No turn 1 mana dork, even though this deck plays 8 of them. I kept it for the scavenging ooze. Oh, actually, no, I do have the mana dork. I just didn't have the green source. So this was actually quite a risky keep. I played the Mana Dork first because I'm fully expecting lightning bolts and so on. Pass the turn so I can hold up a Spell Queller or a Path to Exile. So here's the Skoos. The only problem with Skoos is that there's not a lot of stuff to eat, and this was a surprise bringing in Thing in the Ice from the sideboard. This kind of threw me a bit. I'm thinking, how am I going to beat this? There's the Bolt. I've only got one bird to eat, so I don't eat the bird. I'll just take one of his Storm cards. Don't muck around, get that thing out of there. Shields are down, so I resolve my worship. Because I've got flash creatures, I can play them on his turn. Now, Surgical here, unfortunately, I had pathed the Thing in the Ice. Now, this is an interesting dilemma here because Thing in the Ice is going to actually just bounce all my creatures past worship anyway, so eventually I've got to get rid of it with the path. Negate is a good card here because you can see he's got so much mana that he doesn't need his mana dorks anymore, and he has efficient cards. The Thing in the Ice goes to 1 at the stage. It doesn't matter if he flips it because I can take the hit and also I can just path it. So it does flip this time. Unfortunately, he's bouncing my token. So I'm gonna I take his grape shots. So he's got 2 paths to win now, Thing in the Ice and also empty the Warrens. Second Worship I don't want. So I know the only way he's going to beat me. I know his last card is empty the Warrens. The only way he's going to beat me is by bouncing Worship, and he usually does that with something like an Echoing Truth, so 2 Worships is no good. So he's got 1 card left in hand, so what I have to do here is try and stop him resolving and empty the Warrens. I need to keep 3 mana up for Spell Queller. My thinking here is not so much to stop empty the Warrens, it's more protect my Worship. This Precognition field is really good. The card is he resolves eventually. Basically lets him look at 2 cards a turn, so I have to Spell Queller that. And my thinking here is that he's got an empty the Warrens and he's got 1 more card, so whatever that is, which it turns out to be a braid, so his Precognition field resolves, and now I'm in big trouble. He plays out an empty the Warrens, gets a ton of 2, 4, whatever, a whole heap anyway. So now I just need to protect that Worship. And again, I probably misplay here. I can play the second Worship. There's an Unsubstantiate targeting the Corsair, which I don't really care. I was a bit surprised he didn't bounce the Worship, to be honest. I'm sure there's a reason for that. He doesn't misplay like that. I possibly read the card wrong. It might only return creatures to hand. So he's starting to go off now. At this stage, I know he doesn't have grape shots, I know. So he can kill as many creatures as he wants. So I'm just going to flash in a Spell Queller. The only thing I'm interested in with the Spell Queller is stopping anything that gets Worship. So he's down to, you can see he's got 1 card in hand, plays a Storm Count is huge, gets pieces of the puzzle. He keeps storming off. Now, I know he only had 1 empty the Warren, so I can only assume he's digging here, looking for something. And he plays Repeal. Now, this is it ends up being the game because I misread this card, I believe, but Spell Queller, I believe you have to name the mana cost of what you want to bounce, but it's that or less. So he actually quite smartly named Repeal for 5 and then bounced the Worship so that my Spell Queller couldn't get it when I thought you have to name the exact cost. So we're on to game 3 now. And I didn't see, I think I saw one Baral in the previous game, so I'm not sure what his approach is to this game this time. I should also note that this time, at this particular point in the game, I'm currently overseas and my wife is working from home, so I have to watch a 4-month-old and a 4-year-old. And 4-month-old started to pester me big time at this particular point, so I think I'd make quite a crucial misplay at the start. That's not an excuse. I'm not making an excuse at all, but there was something I did and I immediately thought, shit, what did I do that for? Because I was kind of distracted. I crack the Horizon Cannon because I'm aggressively digging for something. I play out the Corsair because at this stage I've got the Surgical. I can Surgical whatever he decides to play. You can see there's the Electromancer, so I don't know if that's come back in or he just didn't draw it in the last turn. I'm drawing a Birds next turn, which is hardly inspiring. I can take down the Electromancer now if I want to, and then I can hold up Negate. I could have used the Dromoka's command, but after I saw that enchantment the previous turn, I'm keeping Dromoka's command just in case he has an enchantment, precognition field or whatever it's called. There's also a sneaky chance here that if he decides to just clear with a empty the Warrens or something like that, then I can Dromoka's command to save my Corsair. This time I take the empty the Warrens. You can see he's got 2 Grape Shots in hand, so he's going to do some damage. And again, with the Grape Shots, I'm kind of hoping that I can ambush something with the Dromoka's command. He's got me at 9, so I do have to be wary of my life total at this point. And he's going to try and finish off Corsair here. I go for the negate so that I can hold up Dromoka's command. You can see he's got me at 9, he's down to 3 cards, but I think I'm dead either way here because he's got the 2 Grape Shots. So I don't think there's a way out of this. I prevent the damage and kill a... I think that he can just Grape Shot me twice. And the storm count at the stage was 5, so I was dead. He just plays out the second one, and that's good game. So Dylan takes Modern 2 games to 1. And we get on to Legacy. Again, this is something I net deck, Eldrazi Stompy. The reason I net decked this one was because I thought it was just pretty straightforward. I actually wanted to play my Black-Red Reanimator, but I couldn't remember the mana base. So I didn't want to go guessing, so I just net decked this pretty straightforward jam creature deck. Chalice of the Void is like, I think I can't beat that turn one. Sorry, Ensnaring Bridge I can't beat turn 1. I mean, I can. I've got things like Endbringer. I can still plus plus. And at this stage, you can see he's still got five cards in hand. So here I can either play the GT, which wouldn't be equipped until the next turn, or an Endless one. And I kind of think that I'm running out of turns, so I'm going to go for endless one to try and win the game more quickly. Well, actually, no, I went for GT. Interesting. He drops a serum powder and smokestack. This is card. Me and Dylan have practiced a fair bit of Legacy, and he always beats me with this card. So at this stage, I think I can't really beat smokestack, and I can see that we actually had a technical issue with the game crash, so we had to start again. But because of the position was, I didn't think I could beat it, so I just conceded, and we went to game 2. For the others watching, you don't have to do that at that particular stage. You can restart the game because there's no one clearly going to win. But we do kind of encourage um, like the sportsmanship. Like I knew I was beat, so I'm not going to take advantage of the situation. At this stage, my mana is dodgy as hell, but I've got a pretty explosive start. And Dylan conceded. I don't know why he conceded there. Um, oh, that's right. He said he was missing too many land drops. So I wasteland his Ancient Tomb because you can see he had the Serum Powder, so he could have played a 4 mana spell next turn. Now he's got 2 mana. You can see I've got a ton of mana available. So he plays out a Ratchet Bomb. Thorn of the Amethyst. Non-creature spells cost 2 extra, so now he's going to have to get to turn 6 to. In my thinking, I sided out my GTAs, I think, and all I've got are creatures, and I'm thinking Smokestack, beat Smokestack. I've got to have him beaten before he gets to turn 6, and now he starts to miss land drops. So at this stage, I think I'm pretty safe. I play out an Urborg so that I can tap my Iovig to pay the Bernicle cost next turn. He plays a second Ratchet Bomb. Now, he didn't actually up the Ratchet Bomb. I'm guessing he wants to get value for my Endless one. I can play an Endbringer here, so this is lethal next turn. So this is going to force him to crack the Ratchet Bomb. He puts a counter on the other one. You can see he's still missing land drops. He's finally found it's a Smokestack, but it's way too late now. So at this stage, I can just give up the Endless one to the Smokestack, trigger next turn, if he doesn't crack the Ratchet Bomb. But I've got him dead because of Reality Smasher, and I take Legacy 2 games to 1. So I get the points against Dylan once he sees Reality.